Hey, what's going on, good people? It's your boy James Harris, of course, Mental Heal. Listen, I appreciate all the support over the years, whether it was for my book, man, Just Express Yourself, which is an interactive planning guide for boys and men to better express themselves. So salute to those parents who got it for their young sons. Praises to those partners and couples who got it for the men in their life. Of course, to the schools, the administrative, and everybody else who ordering the book by the dozens. I definitely appreciate that. And also salute to everybody who supported me on Cheesy Date Board Games, which is a good game for adults and couples, your game night, your date nights. So many interactive ideas come from it. I definitely love the responses that it's garnering. But now I'm asking for your support again on this YouTube journey. I'm back. I took a little break because I had so much going on, but be a little bit more consistent with it. I got a couple interviews lined up with prominent people and people doing phenomenal things within the community or within this mental health space or even different authors and things like that. So bear with me. Appreciate your support. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And the guest that I got coming up now is
I am Amber Heiskill, the founder of Power House Birth of Life Doula Services, Lucid Goddess Holistic Wellness, and Power House Enrichment and Consulting. My background is in mental health, been in the mental health field for about 17 years now, and just celebrated my 4-year doula anniversary last week. And that's really my big thing. I'm a mental health advocate, a reproductive justice advocate. I do a lot of work in the community, whether it's on my own or with other organizations like Birth and Color, um, just things of that nature to really spread awareness about being in the community, how people can access doula care, supportive services for the entire family, and not just the birthing person.
Got you. No, definitely. I appreciate that healthy introduction. So for the people who are unfamiliar, what is a doula and why would people need them?
So a doula is a non-medically trained person that provides emotional and physical support during the perinatal process. A lot of people think that you have to wait until you're getting ready to have, your child to give birth and things like that to get doula care. But for some of us, like myself, it's never too late. I've taken clients on 6 weeks pregnant. I've taken clients on inactive labor, during the postpartum period. So it's really, just about what the person needs as to when. But a doula is not a medical person. We do not provide like any type of medical care. There are some people that may overlap as far as nurses who provide doula care and things like that. But a doula itself, we're not trained to provide medical care. But we are there to provide support emotionally, physical. We help the clients learn how to advocate for themselves, and then we advocate for them. I always tell people, like, I'm not here to advocate for you. As a social worker, that's the first thing we're trained to do, advocate for people. As a doula, no, we teach people to advocate for themselves, and then we amplify their voices, advocate with them, support them, and, navigating that. And then if there are times where I have to step in and advocate for someone, then that means all precursors, have not passed on. We haven't been able to achieve what we're trying to achieve with the client and their family, um, advocating in that area. But as a full spectrum doula, they can have prenatal care, birth support, postpartum care. Doulas are not just for home births. That is one of the biggest misconceptions I've heard since I became a doula during COVID, which was a time within itself. Doulas are for home births, for medicated births. We do hospital births, all of the things. However, doulas generally are not attending unassisted births, meaning that they're the only person there to provide care. But we can support hospital births, birthing center births, and home births.
Got you, got you. I have been seeing a rise of the number of male doulas that are presenting, which is a good thing, I feel. Now, as far as Black women's maternal health, why do you think those numbers are so staggering? And then do you think that this is part of the reason why more people are, I guess, getting doulas now?
Definitely part of the reason why systemically there are always biases. There are always things that minorities are facing, and the Black maternal health rate has wavered, it has fluctuated, but it still remains high. The Black maternal health rate for the birthing persons and babies, and it's not just about the care that the gestational person is receiving. It's also about the babies. It's about the ones who are coming after this care. A lot of that is because of like institutional racism, this systemic racism, biases, where sometimes, people are unaware of their biases. Then we have these preconceived notions that Black women don't feel pain. And it's not that, it's that Black women have been trained to take the grunt of things with a smile, a grunt of things with a grain of salt, and keep going. And it gives that misconception that Black women don't feel pain, or that Black women's pain for tolerance is higher. But most times it's because our pain for ignorance is higher. Our pain, our tolerance for just pushing through, our tolerance with persistence is higher than others. And that's not a cultural norm, so to speak, more so than it is a societal push. These are things that we've had to learn to endure. And so with that, Black women are systemically looked at as they're just looking for a handout. They're coming into these hospitals, presenting in certain ways to get medications and such, when it's like, no, see us as individuals, see us as you see your own counterparts, as your own children and families. And a lot of that, does kind of go into the biases that we see in hospitals. We have, some hospitals, especially in the Richmond area, that are so pro-Black, so pro-doula, so pro-Black, Indigenous, people of color, that really do the work to ensure that they're not missing things, that they're not overlooking things. But then you have some who have been around for years and years. There's been a particular provider in the area that has stated, and she's known to not work with doulas. And it's because there hasn't been that one-on-one. You haven't sat down with individuals like myself, or individuals through other agencies or organizations that have been out here doing the work with this team approach, which instills the same thing. And because some of these things are taught, they don't realize that the biases that they're holding, they're teaching the next doctor, nurse, or midwife to have these same ideations.
Yeah, and that's true. A lot of people don't even, want to give outsiders a chance,
Hmm.
although it can potentially help or assist that mom that's going through this birthing situation. So let me ask
Right.
you this too, because I know it's like my daughter is 13 now, so a lot has changed from when I first became a father. And I remember, assisting my wife at the time, with my daughter, helping her latch, and we going to
Yeah,
different
yeah.
classes, just the entire process. I was immersed into it. So
Right.
what are some things now you think that men can do to better assist their partners during pregnancy and I guess post-pregnancy, because that's important too.
So I tell all of my families that as much as the gestational pregnant person thinks that the doula is just for them, we're not. I love partners. Partners is one of these spaces where I fold, because I tell people I feel like partners are the most vulnerable person in the experience, because they don't always know what to do, but they want to help. They don't know what to say, when to do, how to do, or they feel like it's a woman's thing, or there's no space for me in that. Um, Back for some of us, depending on the years that we were born and things that were going on family wise, especially even with our parents, men were quote unquote not allowed in the birthing space. They didn't have a place in the birthing space, but they had a place in getting to that space. They had a place in helping to create this life. And a lot of times we hear men like, well, I was just there. I didn't know what to do, because men don't always know how, or they're not taught. They're not encouraged and told that, no, this is about you. And so one of my things that I always tell my clients is, make sure your partner has my number. Make sure your partner knows they can reach out. And I love it because partners have questions, they have
Yeah.
needs, they have concerns. Whether it's a hospital birth, a home birth, a birthing center, I always tell partners, this is about you too. Just because you're not the main character, just because you're not the person in this bed or in this space to give birth, does not mean that you don't have a part in this. And so that's when I have sessions sometimes one-on-one with partners, especially when I'm seeing certain types of, energy, or they're kind of standoffish, or they're always looking at their partner to answer questions. And I'm like, what about you? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? And, pulling them into the conversation. And that's where it starts. partners being present. They have questions, ask them, ask your peers, ask your parents. It's not necessarily that people are asking for advice, but asking, like, what was your experience? And a lot of times that's one of the biggest things I see is that people always want to give the gestational person, yeah, because when I was pregnant, this happened, I did this. They don't never talk about the partner, or the partners never talk about what their experience was. And so part of that is me teaching them. I teach hands-on comfort measures with partners, and I remind them that me as a doula in this space, my job is not to take your place. My job is not to make this all about me. I like it to be less of me and more of the partner. So I bring them in. I'm teaching them coping skills. I'm teaching them words of affirmation. I'm teaching them labors of love so that they are also included in this. We're doing hands-on things with partners, and I tell them everything I do with this pregnant person, you can do. And some of them are like, y'all, no, Amber, I'm good. I don't want to do that. And I'm like, come on, we're gonna try it. Like, I don't want you to ever look back and say, I shoulda, coulda, woulda. Even down to like teaching the partners about their birthrights. A lot of times partners don't realize they have birthrights. If you want to catch your baby, we're going to put you in this space and you're going to catch your baby. I have pictures and videos of partners catching their children coming out of the womb, and they're like, oh my God, I never knew I could do this. And so that's one of my big things, is to ask them, how do you want to be included? What do you want to do? And I ask them the same questions I ask their gestational partners is, what do you need? What are your fears, or what are your concerns? So that way I know how to show up for them. I put them in contact with other males who, or even females, because the partner is not always, a male individual, but I put them in contact with other families that I have supported so they can build relationships and learn, different things to have a community for themselves, because the partners absolutely have a space in birth.
No, and that's awesome too. But again, like 13 years ago when I was
Yep.
going through it, I didn't know what roles I can fill or how can I contribute. So I definitely did the traditional thing of cutting, the cord and
Hmm.
all that. But outside of that, I'm like, yo,
Now what?
get because my motto is to find work, so
Yeah,
what
yeah.
do you need? Like, how can I help?
Right.
So again, like I just took up the mantle of doing some things I thought was right. Like I said, we took a couple prenatal classes and they
Mhm.
gave suggestions. So we done, just different stuff like that. But I don't think it's a list of, hey, if you're going to be in this room, you can do dot 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 dot.
Right.
So I'm
And it's
glad you were able
not.
to shed some light on those things. Now, for people who still confused or don't get the opportunity to understand what a doula is, like what specific services do you provide during the pregnancy or pre-pregnancy, during labor and postpartum? Because also that's the thing too, like the aftercare once the baby is here,
Mhm.
mom or both, people in this situation, the partner as well, can have these symptoms or signs or just new territory. So
Yeah.
the doulas assist in that aspect, the pre, the during, and the post.
Mhm. And so that's one of the pluses about being a full spectrum doula. So there are some people who are just trained to only provide birth care. There are some people who only do postpartum care. I'm a full spectrum doula, which means I provide support during the prenatal period, birth, and postpartum. For me, I tell all my clients, like, your prenatal visits with me are not like when you're seeing your doctor or your midwife and you're at a place and you're waiting 45 minutes to see them and they look at you for 2.5 seconds sometimes. Okay, we're done. See you in a few weeks. My sessions are normally anywhere from 1 to 2 hours, and we talk about all things. We, talk about preventative measures, interventions. I have some tools that have been donated to me from doctors or midwives and saying, like, hey, yeah, please take this so you can teach people what it is and, help to destigmatize certain things that, will come up. Prenatal care, we're talking about all things birth related. We're talking about the what ifs. As a social worker, as a mental health advocate, one of my big things is, how do we best prepare someone for something that you have no control over? And I tell people, treat it like you would a trip. You want to have the best experience. You want to go to these restaurants, do these excursions and stuff, but sometimes it's pouring down rain and lightning, and you can't go outside and parasail and things like that because you might not make it back. And so, we talk about that, being open to change, being able to pivot. Um, I don't care if I have a client that tells me, oh, I'm going to have a vaginal birth. I don't want to talk about a C-section. Oh, we are. We talk about it, all the possibilities, because there is a possibility. I've had clients that come in and they're like, I'm going to have a C-section. I'm not interested in having a vaginal birth. We still talk about a vaginal birth because there's still a chance of that happening. And so that's really my big part in the prenatal. We also do hands-on workshops. I have literally from the items that people have donated to me or purchased for my opening or my reopening. Like my office is almost set up like a little house. We have, a bassinet for the babies. We have play areas. We have things where you can come in and you're going to practice with this fake baby. We're going to practice changing, swaddling, holding. We're practicing holding positions for breastfeeding, all of these things because it's important. We even get down to sometimes I'm having races or little competitions with the families, and I'll give this one a baby and this one a baby and say, I want to see how you change your baby and put on new clothes for this baby safely and carefully, things like that, because just sitting there talking, it does nothing. But when you're able to apply this information, it kind of hits differently. So that's like the big part of the prenatal care. And then birth support, I'm in there. I've been at like my most recent birth. I was there with them for 27 hours. It is what it is. Like we having fun. It's not all work. When they're sleeping, I'm sleeping if I can, or I'm resting, or I'm typing up assessments for, one of the places I'm contracted with and things like that. But I'm there. I'm also checking in with dad. I normally have, especially when the birth is happening, we do a group chat. That way, my goal is to take some things off of their plate as much as possible. So when we're in that birthing space and everyone is texting the partner because, oh, mom is asleep or whatever, the partners get overstimulated. And I'm like, hey, if you want to throw me in that group chat and I can provide updates and information for you guys, I will. So that way it takes that off of you. And in the birthing space, again, just including them, asking them like, Dad, you good? Or Mama, you good? Grandma, you good? Because it's not always just the parents in there. I've had people's children in the birthing spaces with them, and I'm talking to them about how exciting things are. Go tell your mommy she's doing such a good job, or give her some, anything to encourage and engage everyone. Um, and then in that postpartum realm, that's when things get heavy sometimes. And when we talk about birth, one thing I always want people to remember is we're not always meeting a live baby. And that's the one thing that people forget about. They're always like, oh my God, you have so much, great energy. You must love what you do. And it's so much fun. I'm like, and it is. And I do love it, but it's also heavy at times. I've supported people having stillbirths and miscarriages. And that is, a traumatic event for everyone involved, but still holding that space to know this is something that I still want them to look back at and say that was still a beautiful moment. I'm still taking pictures. We're still doing labor positions. We're still playing music. I'm still decorating their room because this is still your birth experience. Um, and then in that postpartum round, one of the big things I focus on telling people is you do not have postpartum. Postpartum is a time period. Postpartum can go up to 2 years after, giving birth, and it is a time frame. This is a time frame where all dynamics have shifted. The diagram shifts. The moment, a baby is born, you go from being a couple or partners to parents. The mom, the uncles go to great uncles, the siblings. Now you're a big sibling. It shifts. And part of that is helping them to prepare for that. So even with postpartum care, I'm talking to my clients about, okay, what does help look like to you? Everybody wants to show up after babies are born and help, but what is that help? And I preach literally, help is not coming to the house and holding that baby. Hold that mama. Hold that woman who just went through a very physical, physiological experience. Hold that daddy. Hold that partner. Get them a, everyone wants to run and hug their baby. The baby been carried for however many months, and weeks that they made it to. Like hold these people who need that support. And so I teach my clients, make lists of what your support looks like. And I use myself as an example. One of my best friends had a baby 2 years ago. And the day she got home from the hospital, when I got there, of course, I'm bringing food over. I walk in, go straight to her kitchen, wash my hands, and I start washing dishes. And she's like, girl, what are you doing? Imagine we've been at that point. 15 years into this friendship. I ain't never came to your house and started washing dishes. I might dirty up a few, but I ain't never came and started washing them. And I grab her laundry. I'm throwing in the wash. She's like, "What are you doing?" Like, I'm like, "Girl, this is me helping. I'll hold that baby later. Like, he gonna be around for however long, but this is me helping you." I walk in, you got dishes sitting over there. You don't need to get up and be doing. I want you to relax. And
Yeah.
so, I just use that to teach my clients, make lists of ways that people can support you. They can do grocery pickups. They can do food drop-offs. Some of my clients, we literally have meal prep parties prior to them, like a week or two before they're due. They'll have family members come over and, auntie might make a mean pasta salad and you really want that, or your uncle might make a great soup. And so we're making these things or making things that can be frozen and we're putting them in the freezer. So that way, when you guys come home, you have some meals to go back to. And so, my postpartum care is I'm coming in however many visits that we've decided on. I also do overnight postpartum care. You need your rest, you need your sleep. And so that's one of the things that I also offer because people got to get a chance also too to stay in that mode of partnership for people who need that. And I tell them, like, if you want me to do a postpartum visit, we call it doula in the B visits. If you want me to come sit with your baby for a few hours while you guys go and do things together, that's fine. I'll come and love on your baby, in the midst of that. But I'm not just still sitting there holding that baby. I'm washing dishes, helping fold clothes, take trash out, literally showing up for them in a space so that way it takes things off of them. And so that's, what the gist of it looks like. I'm also a licensed or certified lactation consultant. So I'm helping them with breastfeeding, all things breastfeeding. And because I believe in community so heavily, I have doula sisters who offer not products, they offer services that I don't. You need a prenatal or postpartum massage, I have someone for you. You want someone to come and do meal prep at your home, I have someone for you, because that's part of community too, is sewing into what other people do. So kind of like overall, that's the big gist of what I do as a full spectrum doula.
Yeah, that's nice. And it sounds like you got a lot of wraparound services that you can
Hmm.
offer too. Because yeah, you coming home and then people do come to your house and they forget
Yeah,
about the parents most times. They just definitely want to get towards that baby. And specifically, they oftentimes forget about that dad as if, hey, you didn't physically carry it, so you good.
right.
And I'm telling you, the men in those situations definitely be going through it too because
Hmm.
they're observing the changes. They're observing also the emotional toll of now my world is changed. Is just so many
Yes.
factors that oftentimes go ignored. Um,
Hmm.
Now you spoke of a couple of different things: stillbirth, if somebody wanted a vaginal birth opposed to a C-section, and vice versa.
Hmm.
Now, have you like how do you handle those unexpected situations during labor if those things happen? Specifically, since you said earlier that a doctor is in there, do you interject yourself or do you just take your orders at that point from this doctor or the mom or like what's your role if an unexpected situation happened during labor?
My biggest thing is to always stay in the moment. And I remind myself of that. Stay in the moment. The moment I check out, I'm no good to the people I'm here to support. I will say, because I've been doing this for a while and I've developed such great relationships with different hospitals, doctors, and nurses, that they know when I'm coming in, this is collaborative care. No big eyes, little U's. Like the doctor, you can, and I tell clients, you can have a doctor, a midwife, and a doula. We all do different things. We all overlap, but we're all here for the same reason. And that's to support, throughout this journey. Um, and so I will say, with that, because I'm collaborative and I want them to know, when they're coming in, hey, how can I help you? Even with nurses, I know that it's certain things that they know they're going to do and have to do. I'm not going to sit in here and just watch you. If my client has had an epidural or she's asleep and we're trying to change her position, I'm always going to ask that nurse, you need some help? Can I help you? How can I help you? I know technically this is your job, but I'm still here to help. And that's part, of that team approach. That and just being mindful of it's nowhere near about me, although it's also part of what's happening to me. Being in those spaces where I'm supporting stillbirths, my big job is to keep everyone in a gentle space, keep everyone in a healthy mindset. So we're talking about things. I'm letting them know, hey, these are some things that you might hear. These are some things that you're going to see. When we're talking about losses, I'm educating them on the differences. And one of the huge differences is the sounds in the room. You're not hearing a heartbeat. You're not hearing or seeing certain things on the monitors like you would in a live birth. And so I take precautions. I cover those screens so that way they're not even looking up there to see, what their contractions are doing, because on that monitor, normally you see a line about the birthing person and a line about baby. When we're supporting a loss, there is no line necessarily because there's no heartbeat that's detected to show up. And so, I do things in that sense to help protect their, dignity and to preserve their mind space. And so, I talk to them about things that they may or may not want. At this point, I've supported quite a few losses, and they're never easy. I don't care how much we know things may happen, it's never easy. But the other part of that is having someone to talk to. Yes, I'm a mental health professional. I can't sit there and talk to myself and coach myself through this traumatic experience. And so I have a couple of my doula sisters that I lean on, one who is a therapist. And so I'll call her like, hey, can you hold space for me? I need to process about these things. But yeah, the big part is just to stay in the moment, stay present, and not be afraid to tap out. I've had times where I've had to step out of the room to relieve, my anxieties and stressors so that I can walk back in and still show that I'm here. Yes, I've cried at births, whether it be because we've met a happy live baby or a loss, because I still want people to know I'm connected. I'm in this to the point where I see you and I know that you're having an experience. This is not a medical dilemma. This is not a transaction to be had. This is still your experience. And so, like, for me, a big part of that is staying present, reminding myself that, I was asked to be in this space. The other one huge thing is that somatic supports. I'm tapping my hands, I'm tapping my chest, I'm tapping my head to remind myself, stay here, stay present, you're okay. And I teach my clients to do the same thing. I may notice that one partner is getting antsy, and I might say to the other partner, hey, go hug on them. Just give them a touch on the hand, that gentle, reminder that you're not here alone, in this experience.
No, hey, all of those are definitely good tips and tools to definitely have them to stay in the moment because
Hmm.
sometimes it's so much going on in the delivery,
Yeah,
you forget, like, so that's
right.
the thing that you get them back centered. Now, what happens in a situation if the doula or a midwife or somebody is not allowed in the delivery room? Like, have you ever been in a situation where you were asked not to attend the birth? Of course, the parents want you there, but if it's a hospital policy or just a stubborn doctor, or like, have you been in those situations?
Yeah. And again, I became a doula during COVID. That was a wild time. But I will say, because one of the things that I do with my clients is I tell them, let your provider know you have a doula. Let them know. And I always offer to have conversations with their providers because I need them to know. I had one situation with a particular amazing midwife in the community who had a horrible first experience with a doula. And so our first interaction, it was ugly. Like, we stayed our ground. I did what I needed to do. She did what she needed to do. But it was awkward because I'm like, I'm here to help. And she's literally telling, I don't need your help. I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to do that. And I'm like, I bet. So I pivot to my client, hey, mama, what do you want me to do? What do you need from me? Because I don't get into power struggles because there's no power to be had aside from the people who asked us to be here. Um, I've had a couple of times in hospital settings where I have not been able to go into an OR because of emergency situations. But one thing about me as being a stubborn woman, a big Capricorn, a social worker, all the things, I'm going to find a way to still be in that space. And so there are times where I'm still at the hospital, but I'll call my client's phone and we'll keep their phone near their head, like in the OR on speaker. So I can still hear what's going on and they can hear me and I'm still talking them through it. I even provide virtual care. I have clients out of state that sometimes they're like, I don't really need you to physically come, but can you still provide virtual care? I'm on the phone, we're FaceTiming, things like that, so that I'm still there. But yeah, I've definitely had a few times and especially that the particular provider that is not doula friendly. Oh yeah, we both know we have a genuine disdain for one another, but I'm gonna show up every time. And it's not out of spite, it's because back to your one of your original questions is the Black mortality rates and the health crisis. because we still have to find a way to show up and be there to be able to support, our clients. And so I navigate it, as need be. I also remind them, that I'm a social worker and that clients have rights. And then when all else fails, my favorite question is, please show me your policies. Please show me in black and white your policy. You can verbalize it all day. Well, our policy is this. Great. Thank you for informing me of that. Can I please read it? Show me in black and white where this is your policy. And most times, that's enough to really show them that, I'm not here to be combative. I'm here to do what I was hired to do. Um, I'd say at least 95% of the time, it's good. Every now and again I have to reassert myself in a certain way, but I remind that's what I'm here for. And I let them know this is what I mean by if our group advocacy fails, if I have to advocate on my own, then it's a completely different, focus because at this point you're not listening. And I've had those things happen. And there are times where I've had to pull an emergency cord to get another provider in the room to hear us and to see what's going on or call for the hospital social worker, things like that, just so they realize like, hey, I'm not one to give up. I'm not one to just go sit in a corner and let you guys do your thing when we should all be here for the same reason.
Got you. So you did just mention hire. So how do people go about, or even what's the rates if somebody want a doula, whether it's full spectrum,
Mhm.
pre, during, and post, or if it's just during the label sections, or if it's just, hey, leading up to it, we will want as much support as we can get.
Right.
Like how's the price breaking down, and how do people pay? Is it one of those services where they can use their FSA or HSA or out of pocket, or is it Medicaid induced, or can they use that insurance? Like all of those things.
All of the above, basically. Medicaid in Virginia does reimburse doula care. They cover 8 visits for postpartum, for prenatal and birth support. As far as myself, I have different packages, different rates, but I also work with people on their budget because one thing my clients come to learn is I'm not all about the money. I'm not a community-based anything focusing on money on that's not where the money is, but that's where the help is needed. And so I work with people on their budgets, help them to create packages that tailor to their needs because I do have clients who can't always afford what the rates are, but that's why I offer multiple packages. And then that way, if they need that additional support and don't have it, then we talk about things like fundraising, so to speak, as far as, we talk about, okay, well, start a doula fund for yourself, and I've had clients do that at their baby showers and such. They'll have a doula pot where they're asking people to donate to that so that they can afford a doula. There are places like Postpartum Support Virginia who will pay up to, I think their basis, they pay $300 towards whatever a person's price range or whatever it is for the doula services that they're receiving. So there are a lot of different ways to do it. I do every year, I do a few community births because again, it's not all about the money, it's making sure that people receive the help that they need. But yes, they can also pay with HSA, FSA. I always tell people, because I hear people say, well, I got insurance, through my job and I don't meet criteria for Medicaid. Apply anyway. The worst thing that can happen is they say, no, you don't meet the criteria versus never applying and potentially benefiting, from those programs. And then I always tell people to look at your benefits as offered through your jobs. At a client early this year who has what's called a carrot benefit, like the actual vegetable carrot. Never heard of them until her. That is a lifelong benefit plan where with Carrot they cover up to $25,000 for anything birth related. And my client was able to get the entire package that she wanted, added on extra things, and Carrot reimbursed it because that's part of her benefits. And so that's why I tell people ask questions, call your HR and ask them what additional benefits do we have. Some jobs, um, or organizations and such, they actually pay for doulas for their employees, but people don't know if they don't ask. And so those are, additional ways of getting that support.
Oh, nice. This is dope. I'm glad you provided a lot of insight because of course that's a person question. Like I
Absolutely.
want to do it, but I just don't know if I can afford it, or I just want a portion of it, but it's good to hear
Hmm.
that you offer different packages. Now, before I
Absolutely.
let you go, is there any tips that you would recommend for the person giving birth, the partners? Like what are some tips that they can take away?
First things first, this is your experience, nobody else's. I'm big on boundaries, and I always teach my clients it's okay to set boundaries. People always want to share, oh, because when I had my kids, I did this, or you shouldn't do that. And I teach my clients, stop them and say, hey, I really appreciate that you want to share your experience with me, but I'm not ready to hear that, or I'm not open to hearing other people's experiences. So setting boundaries, ask questions, show up for yourself. No one can show up for you if you don't start the work. Going into your appointments with questions. Don't just let people tell you everything and you're just there, okay, okay, okay. Then you leave your appointment and you're like, what just happened? What did they say? I don't understand any of this. Ask questions. One of my big things I tell people, please take information that you get off of Google and social media and TikTok lightly. Some of it can be extremely helpful, but some of it can be very disturbing. Not every piece of information that someone shares about their birth experience is going to apply to the next person. Um, and to be mindful of context. You don't always have all the information. One person might say, oh, I got this medication and things went downhill from there. We don't know what your precursors were. We don't know if you had other medical issues going on prior to becoming pregnant. And then when other things happen, it's like a domino effect. And then, like I said, just showing up for each other. Never stop talking to each other. I don't care if the partners or the parents are together or not. You guys are doing this together. You're doing life together as co-parents, and remembering that. I've had some very different type of situations going on where I've had two sets of families in there together because the birthing person and the partner aren't together. But we're gonna all talk together and come together because we're all gonna be part of this child's life. Things like that. Going to community events, doing your research about different organizations and community events where people can, receive support, education, resources, and things like that. But the big part is don't let the experience have you. You're having this experience.
Amber, definitely appreciate you. And of course, I'm gonna put your information in the description and
Okay.
all, but how can people get in contact with you if they do want to book you for your services and or if they just got questions or concerns or just want to get some additional insight? What's your information for people to be able to do that?
So it is Powerhouse Doula on all social media. My website is www.powerhousedoula.com. All of my information is on there. Information about packages and pricing, products and support services. If they need to reach out to me, those are the easiest and best ways to contact me.
Amber, listen, I appreciate you and I will catch you on the next one.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you and all the work that you're doing out here too.